Hey y'all, I'm doing another video, and this one is called In Defense of Kiss. So I realize Kiss can be a contentious band. They're often accused of preferring style over substance and relying on gimmicks. But really, if it weren't for the very controversial elements in the band and their presentation, would their music be as valued? Let's find out. So this video is a response to a lot of the criticisms that the band Kiss has received over the years. A full analysis of Kiss reveals that their music is a hybrid of various styles of rock that came to fruition in the 60s and 70s. And you have on the one hand the garage rock bands, like that, what they call the Nugget sound, because it was a compilation of all these psychedelic and garage bands that came to fruition, and a lot of Detroit bands picked up on that, like Alice Cooper or even like the Stooges. Not saying Stooges were an influence on Kiss, but definitely Alice Cooper was. And then on the other hand, you had bands like Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, or Deep Purple. And a third influence on Kiss, which, you know, they have all these influences, were bands like the New York Dolls, and they had kind of a refined proto-punk glam rock style, as well as bands like the Raspberries or Big Star and their power pop style of rock music made an impression on a certain Paul Stanley of Kiss, who, you know, he actually was influenced by their hooks and kind of adapted to them to Kiss on songs like Strutter, which had some of those jangly sounds that those bands have done, very subtly, of course. So you had these all these influences in a pot, and out came Kiss. So that last influence that I mentioned is one of the least acknowledged, but it is fully apparent, you know, like I said, with Strutter and some other songs, and usually the Paul Stanley songs had more of those influences. Now, do the criticisms of Kiss hold true? In my opinion, they really don't. I mean, their music has a timeless catchiness and a universally identifiable subject matter and presentation that transcends a lot of other bands who were their peers but long forgotten. And one of the common criticisms is that there were a lot of bands that had more virtuosity and were better at this time. But Kiss never rose above bar band status as far as songwriting. While there is some truth to the lack of virtuosity, many of these same critics, especially when it came to Rolling Stone writers, etc., would extol the virtues of bands like the Ramones or the CBGB bands, who had even less accomplishment musically than Kiss, or less virtuosity. And don't get me wrong, I like some of these bands, but this comes off as pure musical snobbery. True, Kiss were no Rush, but they were no Bad Company nor AC/DC either. Both bands I like as well. Some of their songs had some marginally difficult parts to play, though it certainly isn't prog rock and never pretends to be. Another criticism observation is that if not for the makeup and gimmicks, they wouldn't have had the fame that they had, nor been an influence musically on musicians later. And I say bullshit to that. I think this is a wholesale misrepresentation of their music. For one, the album that musicians cite as making them pick up an instrument most often, or a lot of the time at least, is Kiss Alive, especially like in the 80s and 90s. But many of these same musicians also give credence to albums like Strangers of the Night by UFO, who had hardly 1/4 of the flash provided by Kiss's stage show, excuse me. Further evidence that yes, musically, Kiss were an influence on teenagers the world over for great and catchy songs, not just their stage outfits or flash or pyrotechnics. Another point I want to make is that you can hear the influence of Kiss on bands that came after. And I mean, it comes up in such diverse bands as Poison, whose first album is full of Kiss style riffs all over the place. I don't like Poison that much, but you know, they did kind of take from Kiss. And then you even have, you know, songs by X Japan, like Desperate Angel, which is basically like a fusion of sort of the 80s like faster song Kiss mixed with some other riffs. Like I forgot which, I think it's Cold Gin. They kind of take that riff, one of the riffs from there, and kind of expand upon it. And that's not to say that their stage setup and gimmicks didn't inspire bands as well, but I think it's disingenuous to say that their songs and music and fame were dependent on their show. You can still hear bands and musicians inspired by Kiss today. Many of their songs are basically seen as archetypical, fun, and succinct rock songs that people just love, and they did a lot of different styles, later on. They experimented. So, and they've had an influence on musicians ranging from Pearl Jam to the black metal bands. This has been recently acknowledged that a lot of them looked at some of the Kiss rock trading cards and kind of based some of their makeup and stage, not stage stuff, but some of their photo sessions on some of their stuff, like especially Gene Simmons's 1978 solo album photos, which I think, Euronymous definitely took a cue from. Everybody from Mike Portnoy to the Lemonheads to X Japan to Lady Gaga are influenced by Kiss, and not just the stage show. They could have watched. Tons of bands have had cool stage shows like Pink Floyd, but they don't say that inspired them musically some of the time. Pink Floyd's huge influence on me, and millions of people picked up a guitar because of Ace Frehley, pounded drumsticks because of Peter Criss, screamed because of Paul Stanley, or smashed at their rhythm guitar, or thumped at their bass because of Gene Simmons. And there were other bands who wore makeup, had costumes, or explosions on stage since, or whenever through the tenure of Kiss. But Kiss has had a 40-plus year existence, and they're still popular today, and that's the reason for their lasting longevity and popularity, even among a lot of younger people, is that that intangible element that other bands didn't have as much, and that's because of incredible music. So feel free to disagree, but that's, in my analysis, I think if it weren't for the songs, they wouldn't have been where they are, and people wouldn't remember them. So, you had these underground prog rock bands that had stage shows and explosions and stuff, and a lot of these bubblegum bands that came and went in the 70s, but they just didn't have a lasting impact, and Kiss did. So people that criticize Kiss, I'm not going to say they can fuck right off, but I want to say that. But that's my video about in defense of Kiss, and feel free to like it or dislike it or share it or pee on it if they have a tablet, if you want to run the video and pee on it or whatever, and, diss it or whatever, or troll my channel or whatever. I don't care as long as you pay attention. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, that's my defense of Kiss, and hope you like it.